Hi, my name is Jenny. Today I want to share with you the steps that I took to refurbish a Christmas tree angel that I got at a thrift store. So when I first got the angel, I did remove the wings and the top of the dress part. The bottom was made of flower petals. I did take all of the flower petals off the front. On the back, I took each petal and I pulled it up and glued it to itself. After I did that with each petal in the back, I glued the ones that were on the front over that to create a little type of a petticoat in the back to give a little bit of floof to her new gown that she was going to have. After that, I did glue the cone, re-glued that to secure it a little bit better, and then I took masking tape and I taped the entire body along with the angel's arms as well. I then had an 18 by 18 piece of cheesecloth that I folded twice, and then I cut the inner corner and I slid that corner around the angel's body and used straight pins to put it in place to kind of figure out how I wanted to do the gown. So the very bottom of the gown, of course, it's going to have the 4 points that's hanging down lower. The very front I cut across straight. It doesn't look that straight, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then that piece I took and cut into half, and I made 2 sleeves out of it by hot gluing the seams together and shimmying those little sleeves up over the angel's arms, and it created a drape look. After that, I took some red kind of furry yarn and put that around the trim of the outside of her dress. I also trimmed the inside of the sleeves with it, around her waist and around the neckline. I took some white fake fur that I had and I could cut small strips of that, and I also decorated around the outside of the sleeve with that, around her neckline, a strip down the middle, and I used it to replace the wreath halo that she had originally on her head. I took the roses off of her halo and added that to the front with a couple of little balls to give a little bit more flair on the new halo. This is where the wings will set. You can see what they look like. So what I wanted to do with the wings to make them a little more full and new, I got a package of white feathers. So I went through the feathers and I picked out some that were kind of already shaped, similar to the wings. So I chose 2 for the front, or 4 for the front and 4 for the back for each wing. And I was going to glue that on there. So going through the pack, you can see that most of the feathers in there will have a tinier feather that's attached. So I went through and pulled all of those off so I could use those as little filler feathers, and I got them for a pile over there to themselves. I also went through and picked out some of the shorter feathers that had more of a fan on the end of it to use as filler as needed as well. So I went through and I glued along the feather itself, the stem of the feather that went up through the middle, put the hot glue there, or along the angel's wings where I wanted it to kind of give it the shape that I wanted, and I went through and glued all of the feathers down. After gluing the feathers on the front and the back, the initial 4, you can see that the top of the feathers, it did show kind of a bald spot where you could see the plastic, in between the feathers. So I took another feather and I glued it along each side on top of that to cover. And again, with the smaller feathers, I did glue those directly over these stems. You can kind of see the vein of the stem going up through the feather. So I glued those right on top of that to add a little bit more fullness and cover that as well. Here on the back of the wings is where I am adding the shorter feathers that have the more full fan, and it looks fantastic to give more of a more realistic wing look, angel wing look. Realistic and an imaginary or mystical creature. Then I attached it to the back of her gown with hot glue. It stuck to it perfectly. There was no problems with it. It stayed very secure. She looks fantastic. Here is where I'm kind of looking at the dress. You can see the longer pieces that are hanging down. So what I decided to do is I pulled up on each side to make a big pleat, and then in the back I pulled two up to kind of create a drapery pleat. And then I took my hot glue and I glued those spots to the dress, to the gown itself, to create the longer and also shorten that hem. After I glued those down, I did take some little red rhinestones just to add a little decorative touch and put over the spots where I glued them down. The cheesecloth really glues well to itself. It adheres easily, and it stays very well. I wanted to add a little bit of gold to the angel. I cut a little strip of gold decor and I glued it right along the outside and the front of her halo. just to add a little bit extra. I had wanted to put more gold on her dress, however, when I was trying different golden stones, it didn't look as well, so what I decided to do is choose a red stone to place there. And as you can see, I chose an oval red stone and placed it right in the middle of the front of her gown, and it did reflect the light very well and looked really pretty. So this is the angel, and this is all that I've decided to do to her. Maybe next year I may add a little bit more. Maybe she'll be holding something in her hands. I'm not sure yet. But I do hope you enjoyed the video. Please be sure and like and subscribe to the video. And remember to hit the bell as well. We hope to see you again in future videos, or hope to have you as a viewer of future videos. Thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope this was enjoyable.